Hey YouTube, Doug Wallman. So today I've already done this video and unfortunately I have to redo it. So what this video is about is an unboxing of a book by Emmy Van Duerzen, but I've already unboxed it. But the reason why I have to do this video over again is because during the course of the video, it wasn't focusing on my face and I actually kind of noticed it, but thought, but it really wasn't. I think it was focused on this plant, which is kind of the focus of my video, kind of, at least for eye candy, because it looks pretty nice. I just got this at a local shop this morning. I also went to a local coffee shop and got myself only a little bit of coffee, but yeah, I truly felt that. There was only like a mug about, maybe just slightly bigger than this one. I have water in here now. Oh yeah, and I'm also set up for ASMR, which is kind of weird, but I didn't want to set up for my single mic. I thought, well, it's going to sound pretty good, so I'll just leave it. It'll probably pick up maybe a little bit of the ambience of the room, but all in all, I think it'll be a pretty good sound. So yeah, once again, this video is about Emmy Van Duerzen. Emmy Van Duerzen. I think her name might be Emma, but at least in this context, on her YouTube channel, it says Emmy. So I might have to do some more research. Sometimes I've seen it Emma, sometimes I've seen it Emmy. Maybe the same reason why some people call me Dougie. I don't know whether that's disrespectful or not. Apparently, if she's going by Emmy, it's not like too disrespectful, huh? Did I actually even mention the title of this book? I think I did. I don't know. If I didn't, Emmy Van Duerzen, Everyday Mysteries, a handbook of existential psychotherapy. And I probably should have at least done that. But with no further ado, I guess I saved you from the unboxing that way. Instead of reading from the first chapter, I think I'm going to read you the introduction. So I guess I have some practice now, but my voice might be a little bit wore out because it was a little bit lengthy. And we will see, but maybe I'll even include a little bit of my ASMR underneath, kind of layered underneath my reading. I'll probably just take it from a previous video and layer that kind of in the background. Introduction. So this is, once again, this is not the first chapter. This is just the introduction. And there's even stuff before that, like preface, but I thought the introduction was pretty valuable. If you're interested in this book or in existentialism, then this would probably be a good book for you to read. Just making sure this time this is focused on my face. Yes, I believe it is. Introduction. The whole of science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking, one may say. The eternal mystery of the world. I'll start over. The whole of science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking, one may say. The eternal mystery of the world is its comprehensibility. That's Einstein from 1936. Existential thinking is a steadfast and loyal endeavor to reflect on everyday human reality in order to make sense of it. As a practice, it is probably as old as the human ability to reflect. Every now and then, the human mind becomes so engrossed in itself that it replaces its humble search for the truths that surpass and define us with the illusion of absolute knowledge and mastery over these same truths. This may lead to technological progress, but we inevitably pay an enormous price by losing touch with the mysteries that command our everyday lives. The more alienated people become with life, the more uncertain and the more frantic they grow. This insecurity makes them increasingly inclined to create explanatory systems that can reassure and demystify their startling and stark realities through the force of sheer rationality. And here's a name I don't know how to pronounce. Kierkegaard spoke of this human tendency to isolate ourselves as an attempt to immigrate to a sixth continent where it is wholly sufficient to itself. Kierkegaard from 1846. I think she was referring to the year that this gentleman, I'm assuming it's a gentleman, made such a remark. Many theories of psychotherapy are just such attempts at describing human experience with a self-sufficient framework, isolating people within an anthropocentric universe of their own making. These theories also tend to be based on complex developmental theories, which purport to know what is supposed to go on for infants and young children in secret places referred to as the unconscious, or in terms of the acquisition of schemas and building blocks of consciousness that allegedly need to be stacked up in pre-formulated and predictable ways. These theories often mistake depth for truth or short-term effectiveness for integrity. They penetrate into one shaft of living and become isolated in it, paralyzed from further exploration because everything can now only be seen in one narrow way. However, as Edgar Allan Poe once said, thus there is such a thing as being too profound. Truth is not always in a well. Truth is not always in a well. In fact, as regards the more important knowledge, I do believe that she is invariably superficial. And that's actually how that sentence was typed out on this page. It says, in fact, as regards the more important knowledge, I do believe that she is invariably superficial. I don't know, maybe I should reread it how I would have said it. I don't know if I'm not trying to proofread or correct her English because she's much more advanced than me, but in this one sentence I'm kind of questioning if that was actually a kind of a mistake, but maybe not. Maybe I just don't know another form of English. I think she's from Britain, maybe. I'm not sure. Actually, that's not quite correct, but somewhere in Europe. In fact, maybe I'll reread it how I would probably say it. In fact, in regards to the more important knowledge, I do believe that she is invariably superficial. That's how I would have said it. But the depth lies in the valleys where we seek her, and not upon the mountaintops where she is found. That's Poe from 1841. I think. Are we referencing material that old? Some knowledge back then was actually pretty in-depth and pretty knowledgeable in what they were inquiring into. We need to search. Let me calm down. We need to search further afield and let ourselves be confronted with as much human existence as possible if we are to make progress, if we are to make any progress in mapping it. Much of the mystery of life stares us in the face every day, but we insist on looking away towards what we think we already know and so continue to miss it. An additional problem with psychological, cognitive, and psychoanalytic theories is that such frameworks render it quite easy to make judgments about others. They give us clear definitions of what sanity and madness are supposed to be. We can separate the wheat from the chaff and make decisions about who we are, about who are deficient in some way. Let me reread that. We can separate the wheat from the chaff and make decisions about who are deficient in some way. We can know with apparent certainty where parents have gone wrong and where psyches are damaged or arrested in their development. We can lead people by the hand and teach them to follow our interpretations and predictions. We can even teach them how to think in a new way. We end up believing that those who are willing to follow our dogma will find salvation. Sometimes it seems as if the exorbitant amounts of money that people spend on endless sessions of psychotherapy are a modern equivalent to the medieval practice of buying indulgences. I better get a drink of water. I do have that. People obtain the illusion that they have been redeemed, but it is doubtful whether they could have gained some of their new insights more effectively by living more intensely and reflectively, letting themselves be challenged by new experiences in their lives. What is the most disturbing about the current situation in the field of psychotherapy is the tendency on the part of some professionals to make grandiose statements about the state of a person's mental world, purely based on a set of assumptions that cannot be easily challenged, debated, or disagreed with. Having been at the receiving end of some such attempts to lead me and having watched Having been at the receiving end of some such attempts to lead me and having watched many others struggle with interpretations or edicts about their states of mind that have set them back rather than moved forward, I have long searched for a truthful therapy that is non-doctrinaire in nature and flexible enough to encompass the good ideas that can be gleaned from therapeutic theory. Working with the professional bodies for many years in a central position, I was well placed to oversee what was happening in the profession and to discover that the churches of psychotherapy can sometimes become oppressive forces that hamper progress and confuse the struggle to survive with deficiency. And she makes a parenthetic statement here about all her credentials. Let me go ahead and read it. I was chair of the United Kingdom Council for Psychotherapy. That's from 1993 to 1995. Chair of the Psychotherapy section of the British Psychological Society from 1998 to 1999. Chair of the Universities of Psychotherapy and Counseling Association from 1997 to 1999, an External Relations Officer and co-chair of the Registration Committee of the European Association for Psychotherapy from 1995 to 2002. I could be wrong, but I think she's from France. I could be wrong. I'm going to look that up. Don't quote me. I want to say ambiguity, but it's not actually the word. The ubiquity. I did say it right with the first time I read it, I think. Ubiquity. The ubiquity of pathology and trauma. Trauma's in quotes. The ubiquity of pathology and trauma in psychotherapeutic systems is not unlike the omnipresence of sin in religious systems. In a negative sense, the more trauma there is, the greater the need for therapists, the same way that sin guarantees the need for the clergy. At the same time, on the positive side, psychotherapy fulfills an important role in keeping people aware of their moral and emotional needs, rather as religion has kept people's minds on spiritual salvation. Throw religion out and you rid society of much naive superstition, but you also create a gap in terms of moral standards. A quick insert for myself is I do not believe she's against religion, but she does have some critique of it. or some criticisms, I suppose. As long as people do not have the backbone to explore spiritual values on their own, religion is a necessary evil. And I guess where Christianity falls in is whether or not it's really a religion or a relationship. We're not going to delve into all that right now, because I think that's kind of becoming a trite statement, although I think it very well can be true. But I mean, who's telling the truth and saying that, and who's just kind of latched on to a cliche? Anyway, I won't delve any further. I'll keep reading. Similarly, psychotherapy provides many with the opportunity to plunge into much-needed self-examination and a chance to make sense of lives that seem out of control. My criticism of psychotherapy's dogmatism and extremism is made against the background of recognition that there is indeed a dire need in this world for some kind of emotional and personal support and clarity. Psychotherapy is a resource that has become essential, especially in conjunction with the faltering of religion. We should not throw out therapy, for it may be our best bet for the future. We certainly need to rethink it radically and reform it where it is found wanting. We cannot dispense with theories and methods that seek to get a hold of the seemingly intangible thread of life. We should, however, have the courage to question any dogmas that monopolize claims to truth in this area, especially when such approaches claim to be evidence-based. Any approach that becomes well established, be it psychodynamic, cognitive behavioral, systemic, humanistic, or interpretive, is in danger of becoming rather too cocksure, predictable, and prescriptive. It is all too easy to lose track of the fact that we are all in this business of living together, and that there can be no authority higher than that of our own experience, as it is understood in the light of reflection and in comparison with the experience of our fellow humans. Now, I'm just reading this book, I may have a slightly different point of view, but I am resonating overall with my impression of how she's coming across. Having said that, I'll keep reading. We should be careful about which kind of evidence we choose to believe. This is where the importance of philosophy comes to the fore. I better take a drink because I've read this twice now. This is my second time reading this, as you all know. Existential thinking throughout the history of humankind has arisen to reaction to dogmatic and pedantic attempts at controlling human destiny. People like Socrates or Jesus of Nazareth can be seen as existential thinkers who set themselves against the brutality and bigotry of their respective cultures of sophists and Pharisees. So I do see that she's putting Jesus in a rather positive light, and I don't know if she's limiting him to just a prophet or a philosopher. She doesn't say that she is doing that. Just continue reading. More recently, philosophers such as Kierkegaard, probably killing the pronunciation of his name, more recently, philosophers such as Kierkegaard and Nietzsche set themselves against the dominance of the rationalism of their era. They reacted in particular to the philosophy of Hegel, which alleged his potential for explaining all mysteries in one final, ultimate system. Husserl similarly devised the phenomenological method as a protest and alternative to scientific investigation. I may have to look up that word, phenomenological. I think I have, but I already forgot what it means. Phenomenological. At the present time, there are many similar threats to those who would claim their independence of thinking about life. scientific terrorism, or the tendency to base one's life on statistics and the most recent scientific data, no matter how limited or flawed they may be, is omnipresent. I think she says it's prevalent. Let me reread that. Scientific terrorism, or the tendency to base one's life on statistics and the most recent scientific data, no matter how limited or flawed they may be, is omnipresent. But an emotional terrorism that prescribes how we should think about ourselves and others is no fallacious alternative. I don't know the word. Fallacious alternative. Thinking independently about life is just as taboo now as it ever was, though it is more within our grasp, with knowledge more widely available. But we need to know how to apply and use knowledge. Everywhere people crave answers when they have lost the ability to ask the right questions. We so often are after certainty and abdicate the responsibility to seek truth. Let me read that over. We so often are after certainty and abdicate the responsibility to seek for truth that comes with the acquisition of knowledge. It is hard to deal with doubt and insecurity. It is hard to deal with doubt and insecurity, and so it is no wonder that psychotherapists busy themselves attempting to cure people of their anxiety so as to reinsert them into this desacralized world. And that it indeed has become, I think there is kind of a rise to spiritualism and things like that. My own little insert there. One wonders if they should not instead be allowing people to experience the call of conscience that makes them anxious and leads to explorations of life that can entrance and fascinate, even though this experience may often be rather uncomfortable. How can we cure ourselves of life when life and its everyday mysteries is all that we have got? Existential psychotherapy does not seek to cure or explain. It merely seeks to explore, describe, and clarify in order to try to understand the human predicament. It aims to do so with an open mind, or at least with a willingness to observe candidly the manifold ways in which the mind is closed. I have a jet or something. Hopefully it doesn't bleed through too much. The objective is to enable people to stand courageously in the tensions of life in a way that ennobles and revitalizes them. I was going to say, it looks like enables, but it's ennobles. I have to look up that word. Probably a better word, because she already did use the word enable. The objective is to enable people to stand courageously in the tensions of life in a way that ennobles and revitalizes them, while taking account of the context and horizons of the world in which they live. Existential psychotherapy has been practiced in many shapes and guises since the beginning of the 20th century and has been one of the most consistent and enduring alternatives to psychoanalysis and behaviorism. Let me read that again, because it's a little tricky, if you don't mind me rereading. Existential psychotherapy has been practiced in many shapes and guises since the beginning of the 20th century and has been one of the most consistent and enduring alternatives to psychoanalysis and behaviorism on offer. So let me read it a third time. Existential psychotherapy has been practiced in many shapes and guises since the beginning of the 20th century and has been one of the most consistent and enduring alternatives to psychoanalysis and behaviorism on offer. Existential practitioners, on the whole, tend to reject systems and schools, preferring freedom and individuality. Unfortunately, This attitude has prevented the tradition from being documented and taught as widely as it deserves to be. Efforts to summarize and systematize, let me try it again. I'll just keep going whether I get it right or wrong. Efforts to summarize and systematize such an approach are inevitably counterproductive, and because of this, the profile of the approach can never be raised without damaging its integrity. To know that this is the case has led many existential therapists to remain silent about their convictions. I believe that such silence rests on the false premise that one should speak only in truth and with certainty. It seems to me preferable to accept that any formulations one makes are necessarily flawed and that we can only aim for the truth, but never fully achieve it. Take a drink. We're sort of reaching the end. I'm guessing I'm about 80% done with this introduction. Let me reread that. It seems to me preferable to accept that any formulations one makes are necessarily flawed and that we can only aim for the truth, but never fully achieve it. I accept the limitations of my attempts to capture some of the intensity and vibrancy of the existential way of looking at things, but I want to at least try to speak up about it. I have often found that my presumption that others would not be able to understand what I had to say was wrong. There is a strange kinship between people once... Okay, let me try this again. There is a strange kinship between people once one starts talking about everyday experience and the challenges that life throws at us. Here is an area we all know something about, and we all know we need to know more about. It is a mystery to me why psychotherapists are not more interested in these dimensions of human questioning, preferring to focus on the areas that they think they already know something about. Existential approaches to psychotherapy do not have magical answers, nor can they demystify, integrate, or simplify the field. All they can do is to open up new horizons, new dimensions, new continents of meaning, and invite those who want to explore these to do so for themselves and in their own way. There are, however, a lot of stepping stones that have been gathered over the years by many different authors, and they are worth taking notice of when we try to reappraise life. I have brought many of these together in this book, which in this way provides a much-needed guide to the theory and practice of existential analysis and psychotherapy as it has been practiced in the past. It gives an overview of the philosophical underpinnings of the approach and presents brief summaries on the contributions of the most significant existential philosophers. A thorough study of the entirety of our this is a challenge to me, folks. I think you see that, but I'm fumbling my way through with maybe some grace, plus give me some grace too. Give me a little leniency here, if you wouldn't mind doing so. Thank you. A thorough study of the entirety of our philosophical heritage would be far preferable, but I have neither the competence nor the space to do justice to such a project. Kind of like me reading this, I'm probably not doing this justice either, but I'm trying, so I'm doing my best here, and I do believe I'm conveying the general notion that she's projecting here. It will be obvious that much of what the different philosophers and practitioners had to say is contradictory. None of their assertions should be taken as gospel. All they provide are multiple narratives about human existence. In the end, we have to do our own thinking about it and add our own version of reality. This book does not seek to convince or convert. It merely seeks to serve those who want to open their eyes at what stares us in the face, namely, that we are still extremely amateurish at helping people to live their lives constructively and well. Its objective is to provide an introductory tour through the landscapes that deserve to be explored more widely and deeply by everyone on their life. If one is willing to take a look, there is every chance that one becomes fascinated by what one finds. If we can discard the blinkers that usually block our view, we can see life unfolding before us as it draws us into its unfathomable, always paradoxical, and seemingly infinite spaces. The truth about life is more complex and diverse than we can imagine. The individual quest to find meaning in living is an essentially personal one. We can learn from each other's explorations, however, if only to be humble enough to stop thinking that we are the center of the universe or that we ever can know the answers to our questions with certainty. Embarking on our existential journey requires us to be prepared to be touched and shaken by what we find on the way, and not to be afraid to discover our own limitations and weaknesses, uncertainties and doubts. It is only with such an attitude of openness and wonder that we can encounter the impenetrable, everyday mysteries which take us beyond our own preoccupations and sorrows, and which, by confronting us with death, make us rediscover life. And that is the end of the introduction. And there's many chapters and many pages which I will not uncover today. In fact, I don't know if I'll be reading this entire book on video. Some of it's going to probably be read off camera, just me personally, because if I read the whole book, that might be unfair. I want to kind of whet your appetite. It's probably more my objective. I may read, I'm kind of not sure at this point how much of it, but I'm going to try not to read it all on purpose, just to allow for your own curiosity to be sparked and your own intrigue to kind of develop as I read a little further. Hopefully I'll get a little better at reading. I mean, I'll read some like bold print here where she's putting things under categories. Compass of intuitions. And I really found him on my first video. Time as the dynamic principle. More introductions. The instinctual, the multiplicity of consciousness, the realm of the unknown, connections, etc., etc. That's literally a headline here. The contextual and the systematic. Lots of introductions. I mean, I found some that had more to do with like the meaning of life on my previous video. I'm always pulling that up. The principle of self-centeredness, self-esteem and value, accepting limitations, coming to terms with lack, the principle of transformation. Here we go. Playing with the different versions of reality, making value judgments, decision-making, self in relation, consciousness as the center of self, emotions as the compass for finding direction, recognizing emotional direction, jealousy, anger, pride, guilt, despondency, fear, sorrow, hope, love. So some things to kind of look forward to. I think actually it might be in my best interest just to actually read it in the order that it's presented. And maybe not the next video, but my next video concerning this book, Everyday Mysteries. Did I actually even mention the title of this book? I think I did. I don't know. If I didn't, Emmy Van Duerzen, Everyday Mysteries, a handbook of existential psychotherapy. And I probably should have at least done that. Hopefully it got back on my face. So, hope you enjoyed my reading of the introduction to this book. Hope I whetted your appetite. Just kind of a broader scope of looking at things. And it kind of resonates with me to kind of take on a more holistic approach. Is that what it would be? If you're going to go on a quest discovering the meaning in life, if you're at kind of a point where you're really struggling to find meaning and purpose and things like that, at least for a temporary fix, I actually propose that you use spite. Like, why am I continuing to go forward and why am I endeavoring to persevere or whatever? If nothing else, it's because you can for the time being. I don't think that's a very plausible thing to go on indefinitely like that. But if nothing else, if you're one of these people that can use spite, I'm just going to do it because I can. It's like the most indefensible reason of all, but maybe some of us are kind of built with that inside. It's like, because I can, that's why. I mean, if nothing else, you do have that going for you. But in the meantime, we can kind of take a internal look inside and maybe kind of investigate maybe some of those dynamics inside that she's going to probably uncover in this book, I'm assuming. Because I didn't even get really much of a summary. I just trusted it's a good book based on kind of the videos I've seen. I mean, I did read a brief summary of the book, of course, but yeah, if you want to leave a comment, please feel free to do so. I trust actually that someone's going to want to say something. Leave a comment. Keep it respectable, please. And just continuing our journey of life. Now, I am a Christian. I do have Christian views. But sometimes I often actually like exploring either the psychological impacts of life or coming from like a philosophical point of view. I enjoy those kind of things. And if it resonates with you, perhaps you found the right channel or the right creator to kind of explore some of those things. I feel like I'm a little short-handed. I maybe shouldn't feel that way. Maybe she'll encourage me to stop with self-limiting beliefs. But if I can go off her coattails and she doesn't mind, I'm going to read some of her book, not all of it. Perhaps. Maybe I'll just read one chapter. I don't know how far I'll go into this book as far as reading it online or on YouTube. Hopefully, because I paid so much for this book, I'll be motivated on that alone to read the whole thing. I noticed I've bought some books in my life which I didn't read all the way through. I'm hoping this time I will read, because man, this was an investment. So let's read it. Another book that I got the same day in the same package, actually. This is more than an honorable mention, but it's just that it's a different video is all. Why I Wake Early by Mary Oliver. And so we won't touch on that other than just briefly mentioning it. It's probably of equal value. It's just that I'm trying to keep my focus on what I'm actually talking about. Existentialism. I think it's probably a good time to end the video because I don't want to keep on talking. The horizon of life, I did notice that's kind of an interesting section of the book. The basis of physical existence, relating to a whole range of others, patterns of relating. It's just Sounds like it'd be an interesting book if you're wanting to explore some of those facets of life and how you want to look at things. And I think, like she said, she's kind of gathering or kind of extracting from different philosophers, probably from the past, because I noticed some of those years are like in the 1800s. But she did note that some of them will contradict each other. And I think that's actually a natural occurrence when we kind of look at life. Each person has their testimony of life, just like the Gospels have their own testimony. They don't necessarily contradict per se, but you like have these different views of what they've seen. And actually, if you were a detective and you were looking at three different people, their stories actually better not be too perfectly harmonized. The harmony itself kind of means there's going to be maybe some slight variation. That's why, in fact, it's not, in music you'll have, like, when people make harmony, it's actually like a third or a fourth above the original note or whatever. So you actually have some difference, but yet they're harmonious. Kind of hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but there's going to be some variations, some differences of opinion. Some of them may be so different that it's almost creating like a dissonance, I suppose. But I'm all open to the harmonies, the dissonance, and some of it I might not like. I've experienced plenty of things in life I don't like, and I make mention of the fact that I don't like it. But maybe a little later on, you'll learn that. I don't know if you'd want to call it a lesson, because I don't like the word lesson, but that's probably what it is. Anyway, this book is sucking me in already to a conversation that I can't even handle. But in the future, I'm going to learn to grow and develop, so maybe I can have the bandwidth to bring it on. Life, as it were, and all its intricities. Sorry, that was an easy word. I'm a little rusty. Intricities. All the complexities of life. I can't even think of the word. Intricacies. And I should have just desired to say big words. For some reason, my mouth just gets dry and it doesn't want to say the words. And it really annoys me. Anyway, I can at least say existentialism. There's a lot to learn. And I even have to learn this language, to be honest. And maybe this is where you're at, too. There's a little more refinement and a little more definition and a little more clarity. And it's not that you're going to come up with the answers, but you're going to have fun exploring. And I believe God, Jesus, can be with us in this endeavor. And I invite him into this process, even though I don't know if that's where she's coming from, per se. But she doesn't sound like she's against religion. She does, like I said before, she does have some qualms with it, I suppose, some criticisms. But she also has those criticisms against psychotherapy and where that has brought us to as well, and its limitations. So with that being said, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll try to end this video while I'm ahead and find the little stop button. I put it over there. We will see you in the next video. I don't know what I'll be doing next, whether it's going to be ASMR or reading this book or the new book that I got from Mary Oliver. It's not a new book, I don't think, but it's new to me. It's why I wake early. But we'll figure it out, and we'll go from there. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.